The video you're about to see will cover the techniques you'll need to use when tackling the main topics in photography. Good photographs are the byproduct of planning. Being at the right place at the right time is not always enough. You'll need to make informed decisions in order to get the best results. With this objective in mind, through practical applications, this video will help you to make these choices and inevitably take better photographs. As the sun moves across the sky, the very mood of a scene alters with it. To make the most of your landscape, you'll need to be there at the right time of day. Landscape photography can be very enjoyable. Whether you've got a compact camera or an SLR, it doesn't matter. You can still take some really great shots. Early morning and late afternoon light is soft and warm in colour. Very often it is during these hours that landscapes are best photographed. The long shadows from a low sun can help to show the shape and texture of the land, whereas midday light is harsh and contrasty and frequently unsuitable for photography. You don't necessarily need fine weather. An approaching storm or an unusual cloud formation can both be used to add atmosphere and feel to your photographs. Always take time to seek out unusual shots. To capture a sunset or sunrise, aim your camera at the sky and take a meter reading. By exposing for the highlights, the shadowed areas will render black and silhouette against the sky. Most well-known sites have a standard viewing point. If you want your photographs to look different from everyone else's, look around for a new angle to shoot from. There are bound to be literally hundreds of shots just waiting to be taken. Load up a medium-speed film such as Kodak Ektar 100. The fine grain will help bring out all the subtle details in your landscapes. Composition is very important. I'm using the rocks in front of me to help lead the eye into the picture and bring interest to the foreground. Place your horizon line on either the top or bottom third of the frame. It will seldom look best running through the centre of the picture. A standard lens is generally most useful for landscapes by giving a similar angle of view to your eye. The smaller the aperture you use, the greater the depth of field will become. A very useful technique to maximise on your depth of field is to focus on what is known as the hyperfocal distance. Basically, when a lens is focused on infinity, some of its potential focusing ability is wasted. So refocus your camera to the nearest point which was sharp when your lens was set to infinity. Your new depth of field will now cover the distance from half the hyperfocal distance to infinity. With plenty of creative thinking, there's no reason why you shouldn't come away with some really striking shots. You don't need to travel to faraway places to photograph wildlife. Your local zoo or safari park will give you the opportunity to get really close to many exotic animals from around the world. Lions and tigers are generally best photographed early in the morning or late in the afternoon when it's cooler and they're more active. To get successful shots, you'll have to be prepared to expose plenty of film. Just because you're in the confines of a zoo doesn't mean your shot should look unnatural. Try to make your photographs appear as though they were taken in the wild, in the animal's real habitat. To do this, crop out anything that would give the game away. A long lens with a wide aperture can help to disguise the background and give a shallower depth of field. Use your telephoto lens to get in close and exclude any man-made objects. A ×2 converter will effectively double the focal length of your lens. So with a 105 to 200mm zoom, you'll really be able to fill the frame with your subject. Take full advantage of any walk-through enclosures that your zoo or wildlife park offers. You'll find it much easier to get clear, unobstructed views of the animals. Birds can make interesting subjects, but their tendency to be timid means that you'll generally be shooting from a distance. So unless you can fill the frame with your subject, or your camera has spot metering, you'll need to watch your exposure. Center-weighted or overall camera meters may underexpose a small subject against a bright sky, or overexpose a light subject against a dark background. To correct this, either take a reading from something nearby which is similar in tone, or bracket your exposure one stop either side to ensure you get the shot. To get blur-free shots, use a tripod, as any camera shake will be exaggerated by the long lens you're using. One of the major problems common in all zoo photography is the wire fencing around the animal or bird enclosures. But don't let this deter you from taking photographs. One way of getting around this is to move in as close as possible so that you're shooting through an open part in the fence. Use a long lens and open up the aperture as much as possible. This will help throw any obstructing wire well out of focus, and you'll get a clear view of the animal inside. With glass-panelled animal pens, the solution is even simpler. Choose a clear, scratch-free area in the panel and wipe away any smears that may be present. Take the camera lens as close as possible to the glass to stop any reflections creeping in between the lens and the glass. It will almost be as though there's nothing between you and the animal. Close-up photography can offer new possibilities to the enthusiastic photographer. A glance through a macro lens will quickly show a world of detail and colour not seen under normal circumstances. A trip to a butterfly park is an ideal place to get great close-up shots. A close-up lens attachment is an inexpensive way of achieving small magnifications, enabling you to fill the frame with your subject. It's important to use a tripod, as any camera shake will be exaggerated. In any close-up work, you'll be dealing with a very shallow depth of field, so you'll have to position and focus your camera carefully to get sharp results. To increase this depth of field, stop your lens down to the smallest aperture possible. A close-up lens or a telephoto lens with a macro facility will yield a superior image quality to the close-up lens attachments. They have the advantage of allowing you to work further away from your subject. When working with nervous living subjects, this greater free working distance, as it is known, can make the difference between getting the shot or not. In addition to your tripod, use a cable release to avoid camera shake when working with high magnifications and a slow shutter speed. If you don't have one, set your camera's self-timer to trigger the shutter. Use a slow film such as Kodak ECTAR25. The fine grain and excellent image sharpness make it ideal for close-up photography. Extension rings are another practical alternative. They have no glass elements and magnify the image simply by spacing the lens away from the camera body and film plane. They generally come in sets of 3, and you can use them either one at a time or in conjunction with others to achieve different magnifications. In close-up work, fine detail can easily be lost against a confusing or distracting background. To block this out, I usually carry around a small card as a backdrop, sprayed green on one side to simulate foliage, and black on the other to help pick out strong colours. Depending on the colour of your subject, hold up the side which shows it off best. The requirements of close-up photography often call for additional lighting, especially when dealing with a moving subject where shutter speeds need to be brief. A ring flash is a useful tool for the serious close-up photographer. The circular tube which fits around the lens provides even lighting, avoiding the harsh shadows that may occur when using an ordinary flash gun. The bellows attachment is the king of close-up equipment. Placed between the lens and camera body, it works on the same principle as the extension tubes. The bellows allows a greater diversity of magnifications than any of the other options. It's most commonly used for large magnifications of up to 11 times life size. A characteristic of close-up photography is a loss of illumination. The greater the magnification becomes, the less light reaches your film. With through-the-lens metering systems, your camera will automatically compensate, but be prepared for longer than normal exposures. Although bellows are convenient to use, they can be too slow for active subjects. In portraiture, direct flash can produce hard shadows and stark effects, so I'm using a technique called bounced flash. Basically, by tipping the flash head upwards towards the ceiling, the light reflected back down becomes much softer and more natural looking. Great. If your flash gun head doesn't tilt, you can still soften the light by either placing a wide-angle attachment or a piece of tracing paper over the flash. Make sure you don't cover the flash sensor. Now there are a few points to watch out for when using this method. Start by making sure that you're using the correct shutter speed for flash on your camera. Take care when tilting the flash not to direct it too far forward above your sitters. otherwise the light reflected will be too overhead and it will cast deep shadows under their eyes and cheekbones. For best results, aim your flash head up so that the light hits the ceiling about a third of the way into the shot. If the ceiling is too high, your flash gun may not have the power to cover the extra distance, so you may need to use a faster film. Alternatively, you can fit a bounce board. This too will soften the light and give a result far less contrasty than if you were using direct flash. If your flash gun doesn't have an automatic exposure sensor, or you want to work out your aperture manually using the flash gun's guide number, then make sure you calculate the distance of the reflected light path and not the camera to subject distance. The guide number, incidentally, is a figure given to a flash gun which, when divided by the camera to subject distance, will give you the aperture needed. As with most forms of portraiture, use the slowest film possible. If you're shooting in colour, make sure that the ceiling is wide, as any colour will give an overall cast to your photographs. A moderately long lens of about 105mm focal length is ideal for portraiture. It will give a good natural perspective. Now if we change to a wide-angle lens and move in closer, we'll get some unflattering distortions. Make sure that everyone can be seen. Close up any gaps, move the people around until it looks just right. Don't be afraid to ask them to try out different poses. The background can often be overlooked. Don't just shoot against a plain white wall. Try to make the surroundings as interesting as possible without being overcomplicated. You'll probably have to take plenty of pictures in order to get the best expression on everyone. Photographing children can be more difficult than it first appears. Their quick-changing moods call for fast actions, so for this reason, you'll find that spontaneous shots generally look better than those derived from a structured photo session. Generally speaking, children like having their photographs taken, but they'll quickly get bored if you take too long setting up. So snatching shots when they're at play with friends is an ideal way of getting natural photographs. Load up your camera beforehand with a medium-speed film such as Kodak XR 100. Crouched down, it's nearly always better to photograph children from down on their level. A long lens will enable you to get right into the action without being intrusive. If you can, avoid using a tripod. It will slow you down and you may miss some good shots. Instead, hold the camera very steady and use a fast shutter speed. To avoid camera shake on handheld shots, use a shutter speed roughly equivalent or faster than the focal length of your lens. You can use a portable flash to fill in the deep shadows, but be careful not to overpower the picture with artificial light. To keep the atmosphere, set the flash gun output between 1 and 2 stops below the recommended setting. So for example in this case, a meter reading on 100 ASA film gives me f8 at 1/2 of a second. I want to retain the natural look of the shot, but I also want to see more detail in the children's faces. So I've decided to use a ratio of 2:1, that is, the sunlight will be twice as bright as the flash. On my automatic flash gun, I simply set the computer to fill in at f5.6, one stop less than the available light. Alternatively, I can set the film speed on the flash unit to 200 ASA, which will effectively fool it into giving me one stop less light. Check your gun will cover the distance for the setting you select, and don't use a shutter speed that is faster than the synchronization speed of your camera.
Can you hold it as well, Tom? Close together. That's it, good. Good. That's it. Good. Good. That's good. That looks brilliant. Well done. If you want your portraits to look a little bit more glamorous, then there are a few simple techniques you can use. Long focal length lenses, as we've seen earlier, allow you to get close into your subject and provide a more flattering perspective. Their shallow depth of field can also be used to your advantage. By moving in close to your subject and using a wide aperture, the background becomes blurred. Now, if we change to a standard lens, you'll see the background become sharper. An 81A or B filter in front of your lens helps to give a healthy tan complexion when using transparency film. It's worthwhile shooting a test beforehand, as some films render warm results without the use of filters. On colour negative film, this warmth can be added in the printing stages. A diffuser filter has the effect of spreading the highlights and reducing overall contrast slightly. Personally, for fashion photography, I prefer the subtler effects of the milder soft focus filters, as these gently soften the skin texture without degrading the image excessively. Remember, any filter placed in front of the lens will cut down the light reaching your film. So if you're using a handheld meter, you'll have to open up the aperture accordingly. Great. And just stand up a little bit straighter and bring your other arm in a bit. Okay. Good, that's lovely. Nice big smile. Great. Okay, so can you look up a little bit on the right over here? Great. So hold it there. Well done. And Cam, just bring the reflector down. It's coming into shot a little bit. Good.
Now, light doesn't record on film in the same way that we see it. Whereas our eyes can continually make adjustments when they scan the light and dark areas of a scene, the camera lens can only make one exposure. A shadow, which may look reasonable to your eye, may go unacceptably dark when recorded on film. So a flexible reflector or a piece of white card positioned correctly can help to bounce light back into the shadows and reduce the overall contrast.
That's good. Hold it a little bit lower. That's it. Good. Hold it there, Sue. That looks really great.
To start with, it's a good idea to take 10 or so shots without any film in the camera. Go through all the actions that you normally would and don't tell the model. You'll find that when you come to take the real shots, the model will have warmed up and look much more relaxed. Posing your model can be difficult, so you may find the use of props can help. Try to make sure that the hands and arms look comfortable and not cumbersome in the frame. It can help if you give the model something to hold. You'll find that your shots will tend to look more exciting if you avoid shooting directly head-on or profile to the model. A slight angle will generally look more interesting, and as before, try out lots of different poses and camera positions. Finally, for a simple but really effective finishing touch to your photograph, you can wave a sheet of rigid card in front of your model to simulate the effects of the wind.
Okay. Head up a touch, that's nice. Yeah, hold it there. Good.
One of the main problems facing an architectural photographer is that of converging verticals. As a camera is tilted upwards to encompass the upper parts of a building, the image formed in your camera changes its perspective. The top part of the building will be further away than the lower part, and the verticals will converge. The taller the building, the more the camera needs to be tilted, and the greater the distortion will be. To correct this on a 35mm camera, a specially designed perspective control shift lens can be used. The body is constructed in two parts, and by means of an adjuster, the lens element can be lowered or raised. For a shift lens to work effectively, the camera needs to be exactly level. This can be achieved by using the movements on your tripod head. If in doubt, use a spirit level. To keep the film plane parallel to the building, raise the front element of the lens to incorporate the upper part of the building. A distortion-free photograph can now be taken. It's still possible to take good architectural photographs without a shift lens. Get back as far as possible from your building and shoot from a high vantage point. This way, you don't have to tilt the camera and your vertical will remain correct. By using a longer lens, you can still fill the frame with your subject. Fine weather is an essential element to good architectural photography. A building will seldom look its best on a dull and overcast day. Try to choose a time when the sun is falling directly on or across the front of the building. Whenever possible, use natural framing to help compose your photograph. The hanging branch of a tree, for example, can help to fill excessive sky area and bring depth to your picture. It's well worthwhile using a tripod. This can give you both time to study your composition and allow you to use longer shutter speeds. Often, when on a holiday or outing, it's not always convenient to carry a tripod. So, by supporting yourself firmly against a rigid structure, it's quite possible to take sharp pictures using exposures of up to 1/4 of a second. One of the good things about photographing modern architecture is that you don't necessarily need to worry about correcting the verticals. The distortion can actually add to the overall effect. Obviously, with an interior this size, even the most powerful flash gun will be useless, so I'll put the camera on a tripod and use a slow shutter speed. A wide-angle lens is probably the most useful for interior photography. A 24 to 28mm lens will normally be about right, but here I want to show as much as possible of the vast hall, so I've decided to use a 16mm lens on my camera. Due to variable and mixed lighting conditions, interiors are often more difficult than exteriors to photograph. An interior lit by tungsten light, for example, will appear orange if photographed using daylight film. So, to record the scene in its true colour, I would either need to use a tungsten balance film, such as Kodak Ektachrome 160T, or a daylight film together with an 80B filter over the lens. A scene lit by fluorescent lamps, on the other hand, would record green, so magenta-coloured filters would need to be used to correct the cast. However, fluorescent lights tend to be inconsistent in colour, and complete correction is not always possible. Here in the Lloyd's of London building, the daylight from the glass roof more than overpowers the fluorescent lighting in the main hall below, so I can use a daylight film without any filters and still get accurate colours. My internal meter is giving me a reading of 2 seconds at f8 on 200 ASA film, which means that anyone moving in the shot will be recorded blurred. The effect works well with this building by capturing the busy atmosphere. Sports photography can be really exciting, and if handled properly, can look great captured on film. If you know your sport well, you'll have a good idea where to position your camera in order to get the best shots. As with most sports, photographing a moving skier travelling at speed can be difficult. Not only do you have to pan with your subject in a smooth manner, but you'll constantly need to refocus your lens. An autofocus camera can be a considerable asset, leaving you free to concentrate on composition and framing. Alternatively, if your camera doesn't have this facility, you can still minimize your work by focusing on a predetermined point where you know the action will take place. Begin panning before your subject reaches this point. You'll now find it much easier and have more time to frame up. As with many sports, it's often impossible to get close to your subject, so a long lens is essential. In this case, a 300mm lens mounted on a tripod works well. Always be on the lookout for better angles to photograph from. Shooting from the back of a boat ensures that I'm kept at a constant distance from the skier, easing the problems of follow focusing. I can now change to a shorter focal length lens as I'm a lot closer to my subject. Generally, the best sports photographs are those which have filled the frame with their subject. Long shots often miss the essence and kick that close-ups can capture. To prevent camera shake and to freeze the action dead when hand-holding a telephoto lens, especially from a moving boat, you'll need to use the shutter speed of at least 1/1000th of a second. So load up a fast film, such as Kodak XR 1000. A motor winder is one of the most useful tools for sports photography. It allows you to continually take photographs without taking your eyes away from the subject. This is critical if you don't want to miss shots. If your camera has aperture priority metering, use a wide aperture to get the highest shutter speed possible. If you have shutter priority, then set your shutter to the fastest speed that the lighting conditions permit. Watch your exposure. The highlights from the water surface can easily fool your meter. so you'll need to open up the stop to prevent underexposure. If you're using automatic exposure facilities, adjust your camera's compensation dial accordingly. The most spectacular action nearly always happens quickly, therefore try to anticipate where and when it's going to be. There's nothing worse than missing a great shot. Special effects.
Multiple exposure is a simple and yet interesting special effect. Different exposures can be combined together onto one frame using a black background.
The black provides an unexposed area on the film in which to drop further images. If your camera has a multiple exposure facility, you'll be able to take more than one shot without winding on the film. If not, then tighten up the film inside your camera to prevent it from slipping using the rewinder crank. To press or twist the rewind button whilst turning the advance lever. You won't actually move on the film and you'll now be able to fire the shutter.
Could you come and sit down on the table by the computer?
Yeah.
And just cross your legs a little bit and move over a bit more closer to the computer.
Like that?
Great, that's fine. All right, if you hold that in your right hand and let's try the other hand with the pen. And just hold it as though you're just sort of pondering. So head up a little bit. It's fine. Great.
I have an image in mind where a girl is looking at herself in an office. To do this, I have to position the model accurately. This can be tricky. If your viewfinder can be removed, mark on the camera's ground glass screen the exact position of each exposure. Alternatively, if it can't, then sketch your intended scene proportionally on a sheet of paper. You'll find it easier if you divide your page into equal sections. Try to visualize these when you're looking through the viewfinder. You'll need to darken the room as much as possible.
Slightly towards the camera. A little bit more. Good. And your shoulders a little bit less square onto me. Good. Good, that's it. Right, Emma, just hold it there. Okay, just do that. Okay, Emma, that's about the right position. If you just let the hair down for this shot. Just go through it quickly. That's good. Go for a slightly different look on this one. That's great, well done.
For realism, the lighting for both shots should be kept the same. Again, for the second exposure, I carefully reposition the model, making sure that the new arrangement doesn't overlap with the original image.
Just keep looking over.
You don't necessarily need a large studio or sophisticated lighting to do multiple exposures. You can actually get some really startling results using just an ordinary flash gun and a background made from a piece of black velvet.
Great, and point a little bit more.
About like that.
Perfect, hold it there. That's good, that will fit in really well. Okay, very slight smile. Good, hold it there. Good, well done.